Oops. Hi everyone, welcome to So Sweet Samuel. So today you can see we're going to be doing a stitch along, and it's going to be the the slow stitch from Beach Wave Creations, and it is the Shine Bright stitch along, which is this lovely sea themed project that I showed you a couple of weeks ago on my channel. So I've now got a tripod with a ring light, so hopefully you can see what I'm going to be stitching. So I've left it a couple of weeks so that some of you I know have maybe ordered this kit from Tina, and if you haven't ordered this kit then you might have supplies in stash that you can stitch along. So I'll show you what you need, and then you can maybe pause the video and go away and find the supplies that you need. So the first thing you'll need is a base piece, a piece of calico, cream or white calico or linen, roughly maybe 6 inches square. You'll then need some blue fabric, sort of a sky blue, and then a navy blue fabric, and then some trimmings. So we've got a piece of tassel trim here, like an aqua. We've got a piece, or another piece of sheer material here, which is sort of all greens and blues, it shimmers. We've got another piece of almost like woolly material here, piece of ribbon with stars on, another piece of ribbon, and then some embroidery threads. Then we've got a stamped piece of material that says Shine Bright, and then we've got some embellishments here and a piece of felt to cut out the sails and some embellishments. So if you haven't got the kit, if you want to pause the video and go away and find some embellishments or find some fabrics. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my fabric with some pinking shears so it doesn't fray when I'm sewing. So that's going to be my first job, because I found when I've been doing these in the past, they fray once they're sort of finished. And then when they're sewn onto a project bag or something, they've all frayed, and I don't like that look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this down a little bit so the fabric doesn't fray. If you're looking to buy this kit from Tina from Beach Wave Creations, you just go on her Instagram page, which I'll leave a link to in the description box, and you click on the picture of any of her slow stitching kits and leave a message with Tina, and then message her and say you'd like to buy her. That's how you go about buying the kit. So in the box you get a picture as your inspiration as to how to stitch the project, but really it's entirely up to you how you want to stitch the project. There are about 4 different pictures on there of how people have stitched the project. It's entirely up to you how you want to go about stitching this project. So you can see from the picture that you start off, if you want to copy the project, you start off with a piece of blue fabric at the top up here. So you will need some pins just to hold everything in place. I should have ironed this piece of material, but I haven't. So I'm just going to start off just by pinning pieces in place, just to give me a rough idea as to where I want to put things. So with slow stitching, there's no right or wrong way to do anything. It is literally just a nice relaxing project, and there are no rules to slow stitching. You just do exactly what you want to do. And you might find that once you pin things in place and you start stitching, when you take things off to start stitching things on, you start to change things as you start stitching. Things start to evolve as you start to position things on. So I might just shape this bit a little bit just to give it a bit of a wavy effect. There are no right or wrong ways to do anything. It is completely your choice as to how you want to do things. Everybody's idea will be their own. It's a nice way to use up scraps of fabric. Nice way to use up offcuts of bits and pieces. Use up materials to make memory ideas from children's clothing that they've outgrown. Just to, I like to tuck things around the back as well when I'm slow stitching, just to secure things. So you can see I'm just literally just layering things up at the moment. I've got multiple pins and just layering everything up at the moment. And then I will go in and start stitching things on once I've got sort of things in place. So although I cut a wavy pattern on that piece of darker blue fabric, you now can't see that wavy pattern because I've covered that up. So that was a bit of a waste of time, but it doesn't matter. When I come to stitch this on, I might sort of move this down. So at the moment, mine doesn't look anything like the picture, but that's fine. That's part of it, isn't it? I might have this bit poking out the top of this. I might have this bit sort of coming out of here. You just literally have the picture for your starting block, starting inspiration, and then just sort of, build it up from there. Just tuck it all round again. Oops, there's my pin cushion gone. It'd be really interesting to see, if you are stitching this as well, what you come up with. I know Tina would love to see it. So if you do stitch this, make sure you tag Tina into it and tag me into it as well, so I can see sort of what you come up with, because it's nice to see how everybody does something a bit different, isn't it? And what do you do when you're slow stitching? Do you listen to music? Do you slow stitch in silence? I normally would have like an Audible book on and just listen to a book while I'm stitching. I did quite a bit of slow stitching while we were away in Spain. I just sat there listening to my book and people watching. Because you can just, just play around while you're doing this. So can you still see what I'm doing? So I need to cover up that bottom bit there because I've sort of got nothing down there. So I might sort of put something down the bottom here. Right, so at the moment, that's where we're looking at the moment. So I need to cut my boat out of this piece in a minute. So really I need to stitch this down, don't I? So I'm going to start off probably just by doing a running stitch all round here just to secure this in place. So I'm going to do So we've got two choices of thread in this box. So I think I'm going to do it. So on the picture, Tina's used a lighter thread, and she's also included some beading onto the sea themed bit to give it a bit of texture. So I think I might do that on mine as well in a minute. So let's see what's in this little box as well. So we've got lots of beads in here as well. We've got a beading needle. We've got a little turtle in here as well. So let's just secure some of this on. So I'm going to use about 3 strands of thread just to do. I might do a blanket stitch. No, a blanket stitch will take too long actually. So I'm just going to do a running stitch around the edge of this. So just separate this out. So the kit includes everything you need. So, oops, ouch. So you've got a beading needle, which is always useful to have, oops, and a sewing needle. So just thread your needle up. So I'm not tying a knot, so I'm just going through the back there. I'm just going to hold it at the back, and I'm just going to do some rough stitches just to secure this. Across the top like this. So I meant to bring that. I've got a really nice Tilly Rose, is it? Slow stitch book. I meant to bring that down with me, and that gives you lots of ideas for slow stitching ideas. So I did show it in one of my previous YouTube videos, so maybe if you go back a couple of my videos, give you some ideas of some slow stitching ideas. I'd like to get to the stage where I can just look through and just piece together some fabrics and make my own ideas up as well. I have got a slow stitch kit. It was just fabrics I brought, and but with no instruction as to what to do with it. So I would like to be able to use that one day. So we're just going across the top, so just quickly down the side, and once it's all secure, then I can take the pins out, then we can start decorating the fabric and get to the fun part. So obviously the nice tassely part isn't secured down yet, so we need to secure that. Oh, going through about 3 layers now, so it's a bit tough. Ouch, lots of pins, so just ouch. Watch your fingers when you're going through all these layers here. So I'm quite new to slow stitching, but I'm sure there is no right or wrong way to do this. So I'd be interested to know as well what you do with your slow stitching when you're finished. How do you display them? I know my friend Jo has brought a nice frame and has put 3 of her slow stitches all in a frame together and has displayed 3 sort of complementary pieces together, and that looked really nice. I've put one of mine onto a bag. Jo's put one of hers onto made a bag and sewn one of hers onto a bag to make a little project bag. That looks really nice. But how do you display your slow stitching pieces? To think about making like a little book and having them all into a book, because they're all often the same size backing piece. So what do you do with yours? How do you display your pieces? Can't have them all onto project bags, but I've run out of a bit of fabric there, so that can just tuck around the back there. Secure it around the back. Took me a while to get going with slow stitching because I didn't like the messy look of it. I'm not a messy crafter, so it took me a while to embrace the messy free-for-all look. But once I was able to embrace the messy, it wasn't too bad. Right, so this is overhanging here again a little bit, or not too much, so we won't tuck that round at the moment. We'll leave that loose there. Just enough thread to go all the way around that piece back to the top. So I will just secure that off at the back, just with a little knot. And we can just now remove some of the pins. Some of the pins around the edges can come out. Save our fingers a little bit. Just take out the pins around the edges. And then we can think about doing some pretty decorations. Oops, should have taken that one out because that's holding that one in place a little bit. Oh, that one's holding that in place, so just put that one back in there. Okay, so now we need to think about securing, oh, that needle's a bit bent, securing this frilly bit here and this organza-y fabric. So on the picture they've got some nice beading going on, so I think that might be quite nice across here, some beading. So we're going to just need to use one strand and some beads to secure that down. We've still got the Shine Bright as well to put on there. Now they've got that down the bottom here, but I think I might like that in the sky somewhere, almost like a cloud effect up the top. Might have that up the top. I've got the moon to go in there still. I've got the moon and a sail piece. The turtle, can you see those? I can't see really what you can see. So let's have a think. We've got the, so I think first of all I'm going to just secure this bit down here with a bit of blue gloss, just because I want that secured down, and then I can start playing around with that. I just want to secure that piece of embellishment down. I don't want that bit to fall off anywhere. So I'm just going to have that going in all different directions and have that up and down. So secure that at the back, and I'm just going to use the darker thread now, so slightly darker blue, and I'm just going to secure that onto here. So also securing down the organza then as well. So securing the fringed piece of ribbon and the organza, and making that ribbon lie in two different directions, so it's going up and down across the piece, giving a little bit of interest, so it's not just laying in one direction. So what got you into slow stitching as well? My friend Jo got me into slow stitching, but what drew you to slow stitching? How did you discover it? Have you been doing it a long time, or are you quite new to slow stitching? Is it a new hobby of yours? I think that looks better sort of pointing downwards, this ribbon. What do you think? Are you new to this? So is this your first time of slow stitching, or are you a professional slow stitcher? Do you have any tips for me? Am I doing it completely wrong? Or are you a beginner like me? So if anybody is up in Norfolk over the summer, if you're in Hunstanton, maybe you could pop in and say hello to Tina. She's got a lovely little shop up in Hunstanton. I know she's doing the carnival in Wales. So if you're up in Wales as well, maybe you can pop up and see her. She'll be doing Carnival Week up there. So, but definitely if you're up in Hunstanton, up in Norfolk, maybe you could go and visit Tina, see her shop, tell her I've sent you up that way. It'd be lovely if you can support her. She's a lovely, lovely lady. She's a very talented crafter. She's a multi-crafter, very talented. It'd be lovely if you could just go and support her little shop. Right, so let's take out some of these other pins now. We don't need all of those in now. Stop stabbing myself on these pins. Oh, am I going to be able to get that one out now? That one's under there now. I have to go under there. Get you out from there. I might be able to wiggle you out. Should have thought about that before I stitch that down. Yeah, take your pins out before you trap them under your sewing. Would be helpful, wouldn't it? Okay, so that's sort of secured there now. So we've got that secured on there. So we can take these ones out down the bottom as well, because I think we've got enough anchorage now. Okay, so can you see that? All right, so we're secure now. Actually, Mr. Turtle could almost go underneath, couldn't he? We won't put him underneath. So we've got this piece of ribbony effect here still, so this needs to go somewhere. So that could fill up the bottom where we've got a little gap here, but although we've got this spare bit down here, which actually I might just put that down there where we've got a little gap, and this bit I might put underneath, trailing out of there. I have that coming out somehow, I don't know. I might have that coming up as like seaweed maybe. Yes, let's have that coming up as seaweed from the bottom. Yes, let's have that coming up as seaweed. So let's thread that needle up again with the grey. Oops. Let's thread that up again. Ugh. That wool stuff is all molting. All woolly stuff in my mouth now. Right, let's have that coming up as a bit of seaweed coming up from the bottom to fill up that little gap there where I've got a bit of a gap going on. We don't want that little gap there, do we? So let's just fill that gap in at the bottom. I think we've got another, yeah, we've got another bit of embellishmenty bit here that we haven't got on. We've got this bit as well. We need to think about how we're going to put that on, because that looks like a wavy bit. So we need to put that on as well before we start thinking about all the beads. So this is an ideal way as well that you could try out lots of different stitches when you're doing your slow stitching. This is an ideal way of practicing all those embroidery stitches, your lazy daisies and your bullion stitches and French knots, and because if they're not perfect, it doesn't matter, because that's the beauty of slow stitching. Nothing has to be perfect, does it? Nobody's going to come and tell you off. The Embroidery Guild aren't going to come and be knocking on your door and telling you that that's not good enough. So we can just leave that loose as though it's blowing in the breeze. Have that little bit there, that's just landed there quite nicely, isn't it? Maybe just sew that bit there. That just naturally just plopped there. Yeah, so I know in my Tilly Rose book there's a project there to make a little embroidery book to practice your stitches. So if you're quite new to embroidery, that'd be quite a good way to practice all your embroidery stitches. So if you did want to join the Embroidery Guild, good way to practice your stitches before you embark on embroidery, expensive embroidery. But you know, there are no embroidery police, especially in slow stitching. They're not going to come and arrest you, tell you off. I think I might just have Mr. Turtle just nestling here. Let's just go through here, and I might just have the turtle just nestling here amongst the seaweed. You can just, he's got a nice little ring here that I can just attach him, and he can just be swimming and resting in the seaweed nicely. There you go. The seaweed's just gently rippling in the gentle currents of the sea. So we've got this little bit here. This could just, where should this go? This could just ripple across the top here, couldn't it? So Tina's got it at the side here, you see. But I'm thinking maybe this can just ripple across here, or ripple across here at the bottom. Should we ripple it across here under this bit of seaweed? What's that? Should we put it under the seaweed here and across here? I want to give it a bit of a scrunchy texture. So I want to have it with a bit of texture. So I'm going to change my thread and go back to the dark blue thread. So I want it under the seaweed here. So I'm going to secure it down there. Not putting any knots in the back of my work, as it comes from cross stitch not having any knots. So just secure that down here under my bit of seaweed. Maybe should have put that down first, but again, doesn't matter. There are no crafting police. Be a rebel. And just tie that off there. So are you stitching along with me, or are you just watching this? You don't have to have the sound on while I'm doing this. You could just be watching what I'm doing and listening to a book. Or are you listening to my dribble? Or are you stitching along with me? Are you stitching something else? Or are you just watching and thinking, what the hell is she banging on about? What a load of twaddle. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a twist. Oops. Just to try and give it a bit of movement and texture in there. Try and keep this in shot. I like this overhead thing. I could do more tutorials now. I've got this overhead ring light, couldn't I? So I'll leave this needle threaded now. Give this a bit more of a twist up there. So we've got some waves going on. Mind the turtle, give that bit of a twist there, go up there a bit. Has anybody got any nice plans for this afternoon? It's a bit overcast here, got the washing on the line, but it's cooler, definitely cooler today. It's Saturday the 5th of July here, 2024, in case anybody's watching this at a later date. Give that a bit of a twist. And just bring that down here. That could have done with being a little bit bigger, that piece of fabric. And just secure that there. So these projects from Tina come in a really nice box that's sort of post box friendly. It will fit through your letterbox nicely, and it's nice and portable. So everything you need is in the box. You just need to put in a few pins and a pair of scissors, or a stitch ripper works perfectly well as scissors to cut your thread, obviously not to cut your fabric. So you would need something to cut your fabric if you were taking this out and about, or you could pre-cut all your fabric. And then this is a nice portable project to take out and about with you if you wanted something to stitch on the go, if you were going out somewhere, maybe to watching your children in a sporting event over the holidays, maybe sports day or something, and you're just sitting around, maybe at a family picnic down the beach. You could just pop this into your handbag on the plane. You've got a flight to catch.